Mark, good morning. How are you?
Hey, good morning. It's great to be here. Thank
Yes.
you.
Sounds like you're taking the show on the road, man. You're in Minneapolis, doing a little tour, and then you got some fun stuff. So we'll get you on the way with that. But
I
Mark,
am the
why don't you
same.
tell us a little bit about yourself and what you've been up to over the last couple of years?
Well, born and raised in New Jersey. I'm a Jersey boy, and I had a love of the arts and entertainment from a very young age, and was determined to make a career in that. So when I graduated high school, I went on the road and toured around the country with the children's theater troupe.
Interesting.
And when that was done, I moved into New York City, where I hoped to break into the movie business. And I got a lucky break, an absolutely lucky break. Met somebody that worked in the business. She gave me my first PA job, and that
PA
launched me.
production assistant.
Production assistant. That's right. I was a production. She was an office manager on movie sets, production manager, and so the first one was just schlepping, being an office PA, running around, running errands, running things to the set. And I guess I showed some chutzpah, and I got my next movie right away, just one after the other after the other. I went from different being a PA in different departments, and then sort of found my way into doing what's called craft service. If you're familiar with that,
Mm-mm.
listeners, so the person that has a feeds the cast and crew on movie sets throughout the shoot day. So
Okay.
not the meals necessarily, but just has food to nosh on, and hot coffee to drink, etc. And I had a culinary background from high school. I did a 2-year vocational course, so I was able to utilize a skill that I had trained for. And then I further got my next lucky break, which was the director knew I really wanted to be an actor, so she threw me a line, and I got a part, got my SAG card, and bounced back and forth on movies, doing lots of extra and background work on movie sets, the occasional day player here and there, a line here and
Hmm.
there, and running my craft service business in the movie world. And then I moved out of the city to Connecticut, got out of the business, and became a booking agent, booking big bands and jazz artists and nostalgia acts. And then started my own business, and that morphed into what I do today, which is I'm the founder and CEO of a company called Gig Salad. Gig Salad is an event marketplace, a place to book entertainers, performers, speakers, and other event service providers. And so we connect event planners with event service providers, and we're kind of like the Airbnb or the Uber of events. And I'm having the time of my life. I'm 60 years old. I'm an empty nester, and I'm not slowing down. I'm doing more than I ever have, and I mean that. I have startups, and I'm trying to be an actor again, a
Dang.
professional actor, and really, I'm having the time of my life. So
Hmm. That's amazing. What did your
pleasure.
parents think when right after high school you said, "I'm going to go on the road and do this touring kind of play thing"?
That's a great question. Here's why. I'm adopted, and I was adopted at birth. And a year in, the I, I I forget if it was just with it was sort of the last part of making the adoption official. So my
Mhm.
parents brought me in to be evaluated, and see how it goes. I'm sure there had been in-home evaluations and whatnot, but while we were in the office, I think it was a trick, but this woman put a toy in her desk drawer, and my mother had and my mother had snacks in a purse. And when she put the toy in the desk drawer, I made my way around my parents sitting at the desk, and I went to the desk drawer. I opened up the desk drawer, and I grabbed that toy.
Hmm.
I didn't I didn't cry about it. This is the way my parents tell the story. I didn't cry about it. I didn't fuss about it. I didn't, I wasn't whining. I wasn't waiting for somebody to bring me the toy. I wasn't. I s- I went for the toy.
Hmm.
And then further, I like my snacks. I went to my mom's purse. I knew the snacks were there. I took out a snack, and you know, I'm trying to piece this together, whether it was one or I forget, but I went for what I wanted, and she told my parents, "Don't don't try to don't try to harness that energy. Don't don't stop him from anything.
Mm,
He's got, you know, it was sort of, and to my parents, credit, I feel like they did that throughout my entire life. My parents were always extremely supportive of whatever I wanted. They never had an agenda for me other than that I would always do my best, that I would apply myself, that that I would work, that strong work ethic, but that find sort of that find your passion, do the thing that you were meant to do. So they allowed me to go into New York City when I was 15 years old. I'd get on a bus and go for auditions or go to acting
mm.
class and do this kind of thing. Some might look at that and said irresponsible, but they gave me a lot of, you know, a lot of liberation, a lot of freedom to explore, a lot of independence, and they would be there to help if basically you make your choices in life. Choose responsibly, choose wisely, kind of thing. Um, and so when I said I wasn't, I didn't have any interest in going to college. I didn't consider myself a good student. That's another, late in life, 2.5 years ago, got diagnosed with ADHD. So that explained a lot of stuff as well. But I just knew what I knew, and I knew what I didn't want to do, but I knew most importantly, what I really wanted to do. And that was to go and explore and be in the movie business. So, um, thumbs up all around for my folks. Just go do well, kind of thing.
Well, that's some pretty dang good parenting and a smart adoption counselor too, right? Isn't it funny? Like
Yes.
one
Yes.
situation, one sentence someone says to someone can change your life forever. But I think to your point, that allowing you to go explore at age 15, a lot of that has been kind of eliminated in our modern day culture. It used to be whether you were in a big city like New York or you're in a small town, like the kids all just go run and play for 5 or 6 hours, and I think Jonathan Haidt calls it like unsupervised play, right?
That's
Where
right.
like your parents aren't there to like, oh, the big kid punches you. It's like, what do I do? How do I navigate this situation? And I think what he's kind of pointed to is that sort of creates these kids who don't know how to handle themselves out in real life situations. They're more anxious. They're more like skittish around the world. They like won't pick up the phone and make a phone call, because it's like, oh, that's so awkward talking to another human being.
That's right.
And it's
That's
kind of sad and disappointing because that's how probably you grew up and led you a lot of these amazing things.
that's right. That's exactly right. And I'm familiar with that study. It was referenced uh, in another book that I'm going to come back to later and tell you. But I'm very familiar with that idea of, are we is there too much helicoptering of parents that just trying to safeguard our children from every single bit of any sort of exploration that potentially has danger in it. Um, I don't know. I can tell you that I parented my children in the same fashion, and they found their way. They're 27, 24, and doing amazing. So, and doing the thing that they wanted to do. I didn't have any agenda, or I wasn't sticking my face in it.
So I don't think of New York City. Maybe I'm naive here. I don't think of New York City in the movie business so synonymously. I think of L.A., Hollywood, right? So what
Right.
was the movie scene like in New York City at that time? Maybe give me a frame of reference. Like what years kind of were you working in the movie scene in New York?
Yeah, yeah. 80. I graduated high school in '84,
Okay.
and the movie, it was LA and New York. There's still a ton of most all the morning shows are filmed there. So
Okay. Yeah,
there's
that makes sense.
right. Well, yeah, but there's New York being New York. There's a lot of films that are set there. There's a lot of
True.
films that at least have locations there. And so no, there's a thriving film industry. And now, as a matter of fact, the largest film studio in the world is being built by Netflix in New Jersey. So
Hmm.
that whole tri-state area is often being filmed and streaming and television, and film. So in 1984, I moved in, and I can tell you, I was only ever out of work for maybe a month or two, and
Mm.
that's when you go collect unemployment and go do your waitering job for a couple months, and then you get picked up on another film. But yeah, it's there's nonstop. Yeah, think for example, some of the bigger films that I worked on that most memorable would have been She Devil. The film I got a part on was with Meryl Streep, Roseanne Barr, Ed Begley Jr. It was cast She Devil.
Pretty
That
good
was right
cast of
after.
characters to be
It wasn't
on the scroll
bad.
with, right?
It wasn't bad. They were good people to feed and good people to come, be friends with during a filming. And before that, it was When Harry Met Sally. That's the film I first started. I became a craft service person on. I was in the locations department, but I worked on the Godfather 3.
Mm.
Uh, you know, Gosh, I could go on and on. Several films with, Bobby De Niro and Al Pacino, A Night in the City. Um, go to, we're gonna Can we put in the notes below my IMDb page,
Yeah,
please? Thank
yeah.
No, I'm kidding. That would the resume there would show you most everything you need to know.
That's amazing. Do you have like any really specific etched in your mind memories from that time horizon, like working on those movies? Is there like one movie, one moment that you're like, wow, this is crazy. Like, I can't believe I'm here doing this as like what? I mean, you would have been 19, 20, 21, 23, something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. I moved in when I was I moved into the city when I was 19, um, 18, 19, and I it's a difficult question to ask because there's so many memories. I have an anecdote for every film I worked on, every person I met, and some of them would be just to have. I have Italian heritage.
Hmm.
My biological father was Italian. My biological mother was Irish. My adopted parents, my mother is Italian, and my father was German Irish. That's the Steiner. Um, but so I really identified with the the Jersey Italian thing, the quintessential, the whole Goodfellas mob
Oh yeah.
Jersey, right? And so to work on Godfather 3 with Francis Ford Coppola and Al Pacino, um, that in and of itself was just such a thrill. And the proximity that you get with folks on these movie sets, especially with the job I did as a craft service person, the first thing you do is you go to the cast and crew and say, what special needs do you have?
Hmm.
How do you like your coffee? How do what do you want on your bagel in the morning, kind of stuff. And so just that, to be in the service business, um, got me close. And so I worked with all the most famous people in the world at the time. I was working on a movie called Billy Bathgate with Dustin Hoffman
Mm.
and Nicole Kidman, and it was during the time that Tom Cruise was married to Nicole, and he came onto the movie set one day and sort of weaved in and around the studio. I remember it like it was yesterday, and introduced himself to everybody that came into his path. Stuck out his hand, introduced himself with his name,
Hmm.
as if he didn't know. Hi, I'm Tom. No kidding, Tom. I'm Mark. I'm sure you know that kind of stuff. But
Yeah.
it was those little touches. I've wanted to write a book about my brushes with greatness, because they were ever so slight, ever so small, but for the scrappy kid from Jersey who wanted to be an actor, this was my world, and to be able to have just a brief hello with folks sometimes said so was so much. Yeah, I worked with. I've been telling stories about Gene Wilder recently, and he was somebody I got really close to on See No Evil, Hear No Evil with Richard Pryor. And in some cases, people became mentors to me, and some I say I'm in contact with still today. So yeah, it was great. It was great.
There probably is a book to be had there, whether it's exclusively your stories, or you like farmed out to like other people in the industry,
I
across time?
yes,
That would be really
yes,
probably that'd be a pretty fun read. It just depends on like, do I want to tell the stories about where actors are assholes to people, or do I want to exclusively just tell like really positive, uplifting stories?
yeah.
Because I'm sure there
It's
are, the ones where the people are not so friendly. Those are the ones that go public when it's like some PA, like whatever person threw
that's right.
coffee on them, and it's like that's probably
That's
not
right.
really how that person is.
Yeah. That's funny you say that. I just recently, all of a sudden, I worked with Val Kilmer as well,
Oh yeah.
and um, and now all of a sudden, a year after his death, people are for some reason coming out and talking about how difficult he was on movie sets, and in fact, going to great lengths of saying, you know, he was horrible in their
Mm,
opinion. And I don't know. I don't understand those reads. I don't understand going there. I'd much rather highlight the ones who you know, made an impression in a positive way, were kind, and that was mostly the case. A lot of uh, for the people that I admired most, I wasn't often disappointed.
yeah.
The higher the celebrity, the higher the star. I mostly found that those were some the people that, gosh, I hope appreciated it the most, and were for grateful for their position, and not, not arrogant, haughty,
Hmm.
rude,
Yeah.
the other stuff.
Well, also, I was just so I had to film some like small commercials for our business, and these are like 60-second, 90-second commercials, so they're super easy. Like you'd probably just snap them out, no problem. And I'm pretty good on camera too. Like I've done plenty of speeches and hundreds of podcasts now at this point in time. But it is
Nice.
it is challenging, like when a camera is on you, to deliver that line and deliver it, perfectly, and not get flustered. And like my office is like in the back of the building, and the AC doesn't come all the way to the back of the building. So it's hot in my office, and I got my door shut, and I'm screwing up these lines, and I'm like getting really flustered. And I'm like, man, I can only imagine if there's 1,000 people on set and they're expecting me to deliver this monologue, and I just drop the ball on it 4 or 5 or 6 times, like, and then they cut, and the PA comes up to you and they go, "Mr. Johnson, would you like coffee?" You're just like, "God, get out of here!" Like, no, I'm not. We're not talking right now. Like, I need a moment. Like, I felt like I would have snapped at my staff if they'd like been up there, trying to help me out. So I mean, I get it. It's a challenging business. And then although you think,
It's
oh, it's acting, it's not hard. You're just playing around. Like, no, there's a lot of pressure on you when you're in those big roles.
There most certainly is. That's true.
Probably more pressure on you when you're in like a more minor role, and like Leonardo
Oh,
DiCaprio's like, Mark, spit the line out. Like, come on, dude. Yeah. It's like, you have six
that's
lines, Mark. You can't screw this up, man.
right. Well, that's I was a featured extra on one film called The Mirror Has Two Faces with Barbara Streisand, and she was the director as well.
Mm,
And I was a bartender in a bar serving a beer to Jeff Bridges, and
good company.
uh, good company. And I'm supposed to be pouring the beer, and doing a perfect foam top, and I couldn't get it right, and I kept flubbing that. I didn't even have a line. I just couldn't pour. I couldn't even pour a beer, Alex. And so
Is there
Babs
is there
comes
ever a
over.
situation where they're like, we need a new bartender? New bartender.
It was I was close.
Does anybody
I
know how
was
to pour a beer in here?
a freaking beer. Who doesn't know how to pour a beer? How many keggers have I done? How many times have I did a keg party as growing up? I knew how to do a beer. I guess you weren't, I wasn't camera ready to pour a beer. But that was another case where she was patient. She may have even come over and tried to demonstrate it herself, but also didn't get it,
Mm.
kind of thing. But yeah, pressure. You're not kidding. Yeah, I mean, the one line. Come on, get it together,
So,
man.
how do you decide that you want to transition out of the film industry? Because it seemed like things were kind of going well. You were working on big movies, interacting with big people, even doing some acting spots there. Did you think like I can progress my acting career, or did it feel like this is going to be challenging to become like a bigger actor?
That's great. It was that it was I was not somebody who was trying to be a great actor. I was
Mm,
somebody who was trying to be. I wanted to be rich and famous.
mm,
It took a lifetime. It took some growing up, some maturity, some figuring it out. So I I didn't advance with my acting career because I simply was not going to acting classes. I wasn't auditioning. I was waiting to keep getting breaks.
mm,
And how well prepared can you be when those breaks come when you're not really honing the craft?
mm,
That's that is all sort of the existential sort of discovery that I've made, and it was good to realize it. I would have definitely been one of the anecdotes that people talk about that had I gotten what I thought I wanted or needed at the time would have been disastrous because I would
mm.
not have known how to handle that any success at the time. I needed to grow up, and so the move to Connect, we moved from Connect. I got married in that time period in '91, and I met my wife at the time in church, and so we moved to Connecticut to plant a church
Whoa.
up around New Haven. Yeah, we were very involved, and so to add a commute on top of a long movie shoot day for me to drive to New York City and be the first person on the set for craft service and the last one to leave and do shopping before it was just I had decided I've tried, I gave it my best shot. And I had a good run. I had a world of experiences and great. It was a great time. But as I said, it taught me that I settled for doing craft service because it put me in proximity to the people that I thought I wanted to be.
Mm.
And the movie business is fascinating. It's exciting. It's new. Every day is something wonderful.
Was
It's
it like,
magic.
was it profitable? Like, were you making enough money to survive? I mean, I know the cost of living was probably not anywhere near it what it is today in New York City, but New York City's never been a cheap city to live in, really, right?
Yeah, it was. We got by.
Mm.
You're young, you're scrappy,
You don't need the penthouse apartment when you're whatever
I
23.
did well. It didn't stop me from trying or
Yeah,
thinking.
right, right.
But yeah, so no, I made a living. We Allison even worked with me on movie sets shortly after we got married. That discovery was good too. That a young couple it might not be good in the newlywed stage to have your spouse come in and into your world that and try to figure that out. So um, it was great. It was good, and then when it was done, it was done. And
Mm,
now after having raised a family, founded a company, and I'm at a age and stage and place in my life now. I think now I want to be a great actor. So I'm going.
mm,
I'm going back to acting class, and I'm doing it the proper way. Uh, I'm working on honing the craft. I'm then going to seek representation, and then I'm going to start auditioning, and I'm doing it uh, at a pace and rate that is conducive that what I think for success.
mm.
And I'm doing it because I want it's a form of artistic expression for me, and I love the art form. It's movies is my magic place. It's the place I go to. I personally go to escape and get lost for a period. My favorite hobby, my pastime is to go to a matinee movie and just disappear for a period of time. And so I want to be a part of that world again.
How'd you fall in love with
And me,
movies? Was there one or two movies you saw when you were a kid that you're like, man, this is amazing? Because I like
yeah,
movies. Everybody likes movies. I don't feel like I have that same passion. Where like when you listen to Tarantino, he's rattling off movies from like the 30s that he saw. He's like this great director, and then this one, and I'm like, I'm never gonna watch these movies. These are not for me. Like I need some John Woo. I need a little action or something, Tarantino.
that is funny that you reference him. Yeah, him, Robert Rodriguez, these film students. I admire them. I'm not at that depth. My son and I do a thing where we'll pick an actor or a director, and we'll try to watch their whole catalog and discuss that. But the movies that inspired me as a youth were the classics that came on once a year, um, which with The Wizard of Oz,
Oh yeah.
you know, right? Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. These would, when there was three networks and one of them would air, that one classic every year. But the sort of weekly tradition for us was on Sunday nights. There was what The Wonderful World of Disney, and
Yep.
there was a Disney film that was out, that would be out, come out, and or air. It was guy like Herbie the Love Bug, and things that Kurt Russell was in, and it was the Apple Dumpling Gang, and these movies that had these great character actors. And I just remember escaping into that world, and feeling, um, it gave me comfort. It gave me, and I pretended, so it was those, it was Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
Yep.
It was
Yep.
Gene, so then 20 years later, 25 years later, to meet him was thrill upon thrills. And so it was, that's what there was one of my fondest memories growing up. It was my mother picking me up from school, elementary, in kindergarten. It was, I don't know if this is still the thing. Like there was half day kindergartens. You either
Yeah.
went in the
Yeah.
morning or you went in the afternoon. So
I was
that's
an
still okay.
AM kid, Yeah.
I was an AM kid as well. So mom, when she picked me up, we'd walk home, and there was happened to be a movie theater between our, the school and the home. And I remember on occasion we'd go and watch, stop in, if there was a matinee, a children friendly matinee, we would go.
Mm.
And it was sitting in a movie theater with my mom, bucket of popcorn, and then to exit the theater in the bright of day. And I would, I would leave still living in that world. I was a character in that world, or it was magic. It's hard to describe. Music had the same impact. Music in a different way had the same impact. So I should, qualify this by saying I wanted to be a movie star or a rock star,
Hey,
one or the other.
maybe even a famous athlete. Why not? Why stop there?
That was not what that was. There's something that I didn't have that in me. I mean, I was athletic. I did all the sports. There was something about, I didn't feel the same empowerment and emboldened by being I it's not entirely true. No, I think there was times. I grew up in South, my first home was South Jersey, so it was the Dr. J with the Sixers and stuff. Yeah, there was baseball players and football players, but baseball and basketball in particular was the two sports. And yeah, it just didn't have the same pull, the same draw. But I wanted to be a star, Alex. That was the thing. I needed to be big. I
Yeah.
wanted to be popular. I wanted to be famous, and that was the closest path to it for me.
Well, like you said, be careful what you wish for, because not everybody that gets that fame, it winds up being the best thing for them. So what happens once you open this, you're opening a church or starting a church or founding a church? I don't know
Yeah.
how they would call it. What's your prospect for work out there? And then how do you eventually transition into music?
Well, it was a church planning. So the big New York City church, there was members, there were students at Yale that would travel into New York City on Sundays to go to be a part of this church.
Mhm.
And so the idea was we should put a church up there.
Mhm.
And we were very active in the church. I mean, it was exciting to be. It was an honor to be chosen to be a part of that, or asked to be a part of that. My wife had just graduated from Manhattan School of Music. She's a concert violinist. She got a job teaching violin
Mm.
up in New Haven. And so it was a nice transition. It was, we had a great run in the city, and now it was, let's go to Connecticut with a bunch of our friends and see what happens. I was in transition at that point. Um, where I left. I want to do all this correct. Well, that's right. We moved in '94, and I there in '94, and I had created a teddy bear. I had created a colorful teddy bear, a rainbow colored teddy bear. I had this idea that I wanted to teach children. It was a statement against racism
Okay.
and bigotry. It was I wanted to teach children to love all the colors, and there was a pen pal component to this where you would fill out, a parent would fill out a card, basically a profile of the child, mail it to me, and I would match that child with a child that was as different from their profile as possible.
Okay.
So socioeconomic, the whole thing is parse as, and that would teach people to children. It was talk and get to know each other, pre-internet, all of that. And as a result, I had a pretty good run with that. I started this thing with credit cards. I won a big award, the Goodwill Games with Ted Turner. I was sent to Russia, to
Oh.
St. Petersburg, Russia, and it was a really amazing experience. But it didn't, and I had nominal success with it, mostly trying to just get samples out there, and but I found myself needing a job. So a friend in that was working for a small boutique booking agency that was owned and operated by the people that owned the Glenn Miller Orchestra license. He worked there. He thought I'd be a good agent, and hired me, and I started commuting back to New York. And it turns out I was a really good agent. I
Mm.
was able to sell, and book dates, and did that for them for 7 years.
Mm.
And um, in 2001, I left that agency. I think I was kind of burned out. I got an opportunity to go work for a friend of mine who is a very prolific and famous architect himself in New York City, and I went to work for his architecture firm for a time. I was I was an office manager, and it wasn't lasted about 3 months. It
Mm.
wasn't for me as much as I love architecture. It just wasn't for me, and I think I missed the booking business,
Mm-hmm.
and so I started my own agency. I
Mm.
started Steiner Talent, and that morphed into including a speakers bureau, and then that sort of morphed into what is Gig Salad today.
Mm.
When I had my first website put up for Steiner Talent, uh, that presented an opportunity, a challenge, because I was getting inundated by people looking for representation and looking for gigs. Starting to
Of
use,
course. Of course.
2002 or so, people were searching, and what I refer to as local, regional sorts of entertainers and performers. That wasn't my business model. I was booking national touring acts, headliners, um, you know, uh, more personalities, and but at the same time, I was getting contacted by event planners, by parents planning children's birthday parties, and brides and mother of brides planning weddings and this sort of thing. And I thought, there's an opportunity here to bring these two people together. They're looking for one another. They're finding me. Um, well, how can I, what can I do here? So I went
Mm.
back to my friend who had designed my website, and we started conceptualizing what became Gig Salad. And
Mm.
here I am 23 years later, and we're number one in our space, and it's pretty amazing. It's
Yeah.
been a
What
great run.
at Steiner Talent? What kind of artists were you? Did you have like a niche of artists that we were doing jazz or country? One of my best friends is an agent at WME, so I know a little bit about it. But
Okay,
yeah,
which
he's in
office is he at?
Nashville. Yeah, but I
Oh,
think I
do you
think
mind?
he I think he books in California. I think he does like artists through California. I don't know exactly how it works. I know about that much, so that's where
Yeah,
my knowledge ends.
yeah. WME. So I was a middle broker, and that's the distinction. I was a booking agent, and so represented the buyers. I
So the
worked with
buyer being like a venue.
exactly a
Yep.
venue, a fair or festival, corporate events, colleges and universities. And so I was a middle broker between the WMEs out there,
Hmm.
this creative artist agency, CAA, what it was ICM, all your all the agencies that represent the big talent,
Hmm.
and it could be any musical genre. It also included, theatrical talent. It morphed into, I had a speakers bureau division, so all the major speakers bureaus as well,
Mm.
Washington Speakers Bureau, or et cetera. And uh, so yeah, I probably, depending on how long your friend was there, I worked with the Nashville offices, the New York offices, the California offices, and I would broker dates on their behalf. So it was whatever the buyer wanted, the promoter, it was often, I worked a lot with performing arts centers, so
Hmm.
smaller, 3,000 capacity, 2,000, 3,000. But then, sometimes the bigger places, fairs and festivals, places like that. Um, and the way it works at WME is either, it's often within departments. Sometimes they work regionally. It's based on whatever happens in that area of the country. Sort of, there's an agent that sort of covers that, and or it's by genre or department. So it's, or it's specific acts. It depends on what level
Yeah.
you're at, but, or the type of booking. So there's some that just work with colleges and universities, or some that just work with fairs and festivals, just work with corporate. Um, and so that's what I did. And so anybody that would see my roster, and I would have these listings of the talent that I worked with, not that I represented, but I could offer because I had that relationship. That's People saw that, and I think probably also saw that I was based in, Connecticut. I think there was something about, um, the that closeness. They
Hmm.
thought, "Oh, I'm a I'm a big dog in this little town. Maybe I can convince him to represent me, or discover me, or
Right.
develop me," kind of thing. And it just wasn't it was not my model. And
Yeah. So
so
you weren't
I
really
had to be,
like going to the gigs and trying to find, the next great
no,
artist. That was not really your thing.
that's right. That's correct. That's not what I was doing. But, as I said, the way most great businesses get started is that it starts with a challenge, it starts with a problem. And I wanted to be helpful. When I got these calls, I didn't want to just be, not what I do. Bye. If there was an event planner calling me for something, the first thing I thought was, well, who do I have in my roster here, in my Rolodex? Can I possibly put them in touch with? Because, as I said, my wife at the time she was doing gigs. She was doing strolling violin gigs at
Hmm.
corporate events, at weddings. She could put together a quartet. So it wasn't that far removed from it, but from a business standpoint, I had to be making a minimum of $500 of a commission on a date to make it worth my while. So at a 10% commission rate,
It's
I was
5,000
booking,
bucks. Yeah.
or higher, right? And so, that's just not what I did. I wasn't going to be booking a $200 clown at a kid's birthday party.
Hmm.
Uh, but we got to this thing where maybe we create a let's just create a directory. We'll get all these people calling me, listed on that directory. The event planners hopefully go find that website when they do it, and let's see what happens. And we did this in a very bootstrap fashion. A couple $1,000s between us we put into this thing, and while we were doing our separate businesses, my co-founder was a um, he went to FIT for graphic design, and around 2000 he started to, um, uh, dabble with designing websites.
Hmm.
He subsequently, I also met him in that church. He graduated from FIT and went full time into ministry and became a minister for 10 years or something.
Jeez.
Some amount of years. Yeah, exactly. Jesus. So when he got out of that racket, he started designing websites, and he and I became business partners. So
I mean, website design is a whole different business model than like call, book, send the wire, click, right? Like And I mean, I'm sure even that business has changed, exponentially with the dawn of the
Yes.
internet and just the way that everything works. But what was it like when you decided to finally spin this thing up and you're like, okay, we're going to try to see if we can make this a real business and monetize it?
Yeah, it was my first venture in doing something in collaboration with another. It was my first partnership,
Mm,
and I realized that um, I may have a certain qualifications, certain talents or gifts or strengths myself, but I don't have all of them, and I could use help. And in this case, we were really good friends. We had met in '91. He came to lead the Connecticut church that I was in for a period of time. We rekindled that friendship. We were really close. He had become a best friend. And so, what often happens, and has happened since, what I realized is my love language is when I start feeling a vibe and intimacy or closeness with somebody, and I always think, what would happen if we took this on the road? What enterprising thing could we do together? We need to go into business together, is what I always go to. And it started with Steve. And sure enough, I mean, that was the thing. Like, he, as a designer, he's an artist. He had a really good eye. So uh, I knew, I was very confident that for the look and the feel and the brand, he's got it.
hmm
He can. We'll work on it together, but it's going to come from him first. And he was the one that named gigs. He called it Gig Salad. He was the one that came and said, "Hey, we're working in the world of gigs. It's a mixture of gigs. Gig Salad, perfect. Let's do it." And so that was really it. Again, I didn't go to college, so I didn't consider myself particularly smart, intellectual. Like, I wasn't necessarily a reader, or I just didn't consider myself smart in that way. I was a really hard worker. I had a lot of great ideas. The mind never stops.
hmm
And he and I, Steve and I, would talk about ideas all the time, every day. He had probably had a bit of the condition as well, but it was always like, oh, we could do that. We could do that. We were convinced that we could do it. Whatever we chose to do, we'd probably do it successfully. And we were certain of that. The problem was, which one are we going to pick?
Yeah.
We have to pick something and do it. And we decided on Gig Salad, and off we went. And it was just that really great balance. I knew the business.
hmm
I knew what it was to be that connector of buyer and talent, and that's how we approached it. And it just it was right time, right place, great idea, and here we are. Like I said, we're number one in our space. Um, there was a company out there that was already doing it, so we were able to grab and pull some from what they did and how they did it. Like everything else, you look at it, you do your due diligence, and you see what do we not think they're doing well, or not well enough, or what can we do better, that all of that. And we found our way and went from the little engine that could, and the sort of the underdog in that scenario, to we made some really pivotal decisions about um, what can we change about the model that they weren't doing, that should be done, and they turned out to be home runs.
Yeah.
So
It's fun. It's funny you say that about, all those ideas that you have, just everyday idea, 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 idea. I think that's like a kind of a gift and a curse for a lot of entrepreneurs because they have so many ideas and then they don't ever stop and just go like, I need to focus on this one thing and really take it to the next level. Like the best thing I've ever heard it described as is when let's say you're working a job and then you quit and you leave and you go start that business, you get this big hit of serotonin and dopamine. Like, this was amazing. I'm so happy that I did this. And then you go 3 months, 6 months, 3 years in, and then you go, I think I need to change something again. And it's like, I want that hit again. I want that dopamine hit that like I started a new thing and it's exciting. But because of that, entrepreneurs don't stay on the straight and narrow path long enough to actually see the thing come to fruition. I heard it said
that's
that Jeff Bezos, he was like with, a very early like senior advisor of his. And the advisor said like, Jeff, you have enough ideas to kill this company. Like very quickly. And he's like, well, what do you mean? And he's like, you don't understand. When you have these ideas, people go out and they start working on them. Like
Yes.
you need to titrate these ideas at a rate that we can actually go and utilize them. But you're just like throwing them out there right, left, and center. And everyone's like, well, Jeff said he likes this idea. Like maybe we should start moving on it. And you don't stay on the straight and narrow nearly long enough to let the business grow before you're like, okay, now it's the time for a new idea. And I got some executive coaching. That was one of the things that they kind of told me is you don't understand that when you're in a meeting, you feel like you're just ideating or spitballing, but everyone else is receiving it as marching orders. Like we need to go
Yeah.
out and we need to launch this area of the business. And it's like, oh, well, I didn't really mean that. It was just like saying maybe we could. So yeah,
Well,
that's something that a lot of entrepreneurs need to like kind of catch themselves when they're doing. Not saying never have a new idea, but like, is this idea really the right thing at the right time? And it sounds like, for you guys, you thought long and hard about it and found the right idea.
we did. We found the original, the nucleus of it. But man, I've never heard. I really appreciate you sharing that. I've not ever heard that story about Jeff. But that was me. I was that guy, and it was frustrating for others. It was first off, Steve and I, we never worked in the same office. We started this. We were living in two different towns, and we continued that way. I was in Connecticut when we started conceptualizing Gig Salad, and Steve had moved to Rhode Island.
Mm,
And that was around 2003. In 2004, I moved from Connecticut to Springfield, and Steve, a year later, moved from Rhode Island to Wilmington, North Carolina. So when we officially launched in '07, we established two separate offices, and
that's interesting
Springfield, and
because
we
you
never, and
got two separate cultures and two separate managers, right?
exactly, exactly, and it was my idea, and it was really hard for me because the Wilmington office, Steve is the design guy. That's where we hired our first developer, and actually gave him some equity.
Mm,
So that's where our developing was happening. And so I'd have ideas that we'd talk about on the phone. I'd be like, okay, and go do this. Every day there'd be something. We should do this. We should do that. And then they would go and sit shoulder to shoulder on stuff and decide to determine that, yeah, that could be an idea, but it's not necessarily the right idea or the right time. And then come back and oh, it was tough. It was very, very hard. But that was me. And it's not a good thing. To have so many ideas and to be throwing them out there. And like you said, not appreciating the power that you yield, and how that can be misconstrued,
mm-hmm.
or you know difficult difficult it is. As I said, I got diagnosed with ADHD, and now it all makes sense. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking back at 57 years at that point, and sort of piecing it all together, and then going and doing the apology tour with everybody, including my ex-wife and my ex-business partner, and people that I thought I had done better in trying to keep it to, and I realized, oh, you may not have been that easy to live with all the time,
Mm-hmm.
Mark. Um, so yeah, that was humbling.
So
Thanks for bringing that up,
yeah,
Alex.
sorry,
Uh,
sorry. Well, you kind of backdoored into it. You told me the story after
oh,
I
it's
said
humbling.
my bit.
It's humbling.
So talk to me about how the business begins scaling. Because it's tough to scale a website, right? Like, how do people find us? How do we connect people? Because you also have to get the entertainers on there. So not only are you trying to get the
Right.
clients on, you're trying to get the entertainers on.
Yeah, it was. We primed the pump initially because, as I said, I had an existing Rolodex of contacts that
Mm-hmm.
were in that business. When I lived in New York City, when I moved to New York and joined that church, back to the church, there was a performing arts ministry within the church. That's where I was. That's where I lived, was there. So it was filled with actors and performers and entertainers, Broadway stars and TV stars, but all walks within that business. And so I knew them. And then my Allison, she knew a bunch of local regional musicians. And so I was, if that the path of least resistance. Who do you know? What do you know? Where do you know? And I just said, "Hey, I got this idea. Would you like to be listed on this website?" And then you just start talking about it. And I'm talking to even my and it was never intended to be just a Connecticut thing. It was, I knew people all over the country.
Mhm.
So, and I was getting contacted by people all over the country. So it was just like, where are you based? What is it you do? We're going to start there. And then as event planners start to do the search. And it was just dumb luck. We just happened to have strong SEO from the very beginning, search
Mm.
engine optimization, for those who don't know. So people did searches, and if they put in talent agencies, booking agencies, talent, events, whatever, Steiner talent showed up, and then that went into that. It happened for Gig Salad. And then we had the harebrained idea of saying we're going to offer a lifetime membership to people if they, for I think it was like $400, $399.
Okay.
You're on for life.
That's
But
the entertainer.
that's to the entertainer.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yes. Yes. And so we had a number of those people that took us up on it. It was less than 50, but it just validated us. It showed that people not just believed in the concept or the idea, but they believed in me. They trusted me. They
Mhm.
were willing to give me money on this chance that it was going to be around even a year later. Nobody knew. Uh, but the very first guy the very first person that took us up on it is still a member on the website. He's a ventriloquist, in New York City.
Interesting.
And so, yeah, and from there it just started to scale. And immediately the comparisons between us and the other guys, the people that had been around a long time. So that was also a, a, a big catalyst for us to grow our roster, because we were able to say to those people who were discovering us, the first conversation would be, well, how are you different from them? What are you doing? And,
It's
we
almost
came in.
almost a good thing because now you're getting compared one to one with like the biggest or the bigger. This is something that
That's
actually Oracle did. Oracle was not really like nearly as big as Microsoft, but Larry Page like started to create a Larry Page versus Bill Gates kind of storyline. He was like the bad boy, and Bill Gates was like the good guy. And he was like, "This is
right.
great," because Microsoft was like, I don't know, 20 or 50 times bigger than them. But he's like, now people started talking about us like Microsoft. It's like Oracle versus Microsoft. He's like, that's not the competition. But people were linking those two things together, and he's like, "This is great. We love it."
Exactly. That's what we experienced. It was, and they were rooting for us because there was this bittersweet sweet relationship with this other company. Because it worked. They started in '97, and so they came up with this business model essentially, and they had been doing it. They were the only game in town, and it worked. So the talent liked getting gigs, but they didn't like every aspect of how that worked.
Hmm.
And so we did the listening tour and said, well, yeah, we agree with you. It shouldn't be done that way, and we did it the way we thought it should be done. And not and again, a lot of credit goes to Steve. We made our site was pretty. Our site was beautiful. The we made it was a piece of art, and that was important to both Steve and I, that the aesthetic. It was form and fortune. Form and uh, what's
Form and function.
thanks you,
Yeah.
thank you. It's early X. So anyway, I think we accomplished that.
Hmm.
We accomplished it early on.
So you're starting to get this network effect. Is it like kind of almost a little bit like trippy or mind boggling when you're starting to see all these artists pop on and these people pop on? You're like, I don't. this is crazy. I don't know these artists. It's like now bands are signing up that I don't have familiarity with, and people are signing up and they're booking random gigs in Orlando, Florida, and you're like, wow, this is nuts.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. It was, I was dumb enough, ignorant enough to think it's going to be big. And I thought it's going to be $1 million big because that was a big number for me. I used to read Fortune magazine and Forbes and all the business magazines for inspiration. Even though I never thought of myself as a businessman. I mean, I was an artist first and foremost, uh, and I was in the business. I was a sale. I was an agent. That's what I was. I knew how to schmooze and I knew how to sell talent, but I didn't consider myself a businessman. And even as I had Steiner talent, now all of a sudden Gig Salad, happens and I'm hiring people. And when we officially launch, we buy a building to move out of my home, working out of my
Wow.
house. And it really felt like, oh yeah, we're going to need to grow. We're going to need space to grow. And now all of a sudden I'm playing that role and I'm playing it like an actor. I'm acting like what does a business owner look like?
Hmm.
How are they? I'm masking, I'm doing what I had done my whole life because of the ADHD, but you kind of fake it till you make it. And the one thing I knew that I was important to me was the culture of the space
Hmm.
without even knowing that term. I just thought, who are who are the people I want to spend time with day in, day out, and started building out that way. Like, what do I want the space to look like, and who do I want to be in that space, and where do I want to have lunch is kind of a new thing that's come to me. Like, if for entrepreneurs and people, just as you're thinking about your career, I think the first question you need to ask yourself is, where do you want to have lunch?
Mm.
Because where you have lunch is a place where, if first off, I hope you envision that you're able to take a break in your day to sit down and have a lunch.
Hmm.
Who do you want around the lunch table with you, or do you want to have anybody around the lunch table with you? Do you want to be in your cafeteria? Do you want to be going to a restaurant? Do you want to have that lunch at home with your family? Everything that you build from a business, I think, should be built in and around where do you want to have lunch? And that's what I did. And the culture is the hallmark of Gig Salad,
Mm.
because now I'm in this really wonderful position of where I have this amazing team that does the heavy lifting and is doing just it's a really seamless operation. And I have some of the most talented, smartest people in the world that work at Gig Salad. And I, after 20 years, I'm able to, I'm appreciating that in a different way. But it's all about culture.
Yeah.
There's a tremendous amount of loyalty and passion about what people do. People feel valued for what they're doing. And we're doing a valuable thing. We're providing a valuable service to people. We give people the opportunity to do what they love, and then we're also a part of people's most fondest memories throughout their life.
Mm.
The events of people's lives from cradle to grave. We're part of birthdays, anniversaries, weddings, corporate events. All of it. We're right there. Funerals. We're a part of that, and that's a it's a special place.
Mm. How big is the team now at Gig Salad, and what's it like managing that team?
It's 20, right?
It's a good
Right
size.
right at 20, including the me and my actually my partner and I, that lock, the first hire, we bought out Steve, my co-founder, in 22. Yeah, we were as high as 35 at one point. Incredibly, great big inflated fat marketing team that was all my invention. This is back to that Jeff Bezos sort of thing. It's like
Hmm.
I had wild ideas and I was the Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circus. We were going to go out there and, you know, announce ourselves to the world. And through attrition and other ways, around 2018, it just started to we started to let people go, or people left,
It's tough when the
and
team gets that big to like keep the culture together. Also, that's
yes,
what I've come to find out. Like things I think that I heard it said like 12 or so people is where you can have 12, 14. That's where it can be one team and everybody knows
that's it.
everything. Once you get to
Yeah,
like 20, it's like now I got to kind of break up into two teams, or like
that's it.
24 or 30. It's like that's two teams or three teams even.
I like where I'm at, because what happened was, sure, we discovered that one, we continued to grow. We've always grown. Every year we've grown, sans COVID year, but we've always grown and we've always been
Tough year
profitable.
for the event business.
Yeah, you're not kidding. But we survived. We did half the business of 2019,
Mm-hmm.
but it was still big business. It was a lot of business.
Mm-hmm.
And but what we discovered was, we didn't miss a beat. And I think, without even knowing it, the culture got back to being more familiar,
Mm-hmm.
and and um, and now super tight, super tight. I think I like it right where we're at. I could see, you know, maybe we get as much as 20 to 20, 24, 25, but we're in a really good spot now. And it's also it's very pleasing to get, you get much more. We're getting much more out of fewer,
Yeah.
and that's really nice. And I think everybody on the team really likes that too, because I've always promised the team, as we grow, you grow. So you keep doing as much as you are with as few as we are. That just means more for you,
Yeah.
and better perks and better benefits and better culture.
I mean, that's the dream, right? To have that kind of business that's just churning out cash, but you got 10, 15, 20, 30 people, and there's just like so much cash around. Everybody can have fun. We can do fun events and stuff like that. Once it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, it just gets challenging to be like that. And I've heard awesome stories about businesses. It's like we were 30 people and we were absolutely rocking. We're doing $120 million in sales. We're peeling off all this profit. And it was just like a really fun time to be there. But you're intelligent because you started a business where you don't need any people or inventory, whereas I'm dumb and I decided to start a business that exclusively needs people and inventory and real estate. We have a 60,000 square foot warehouse and 50 people and packages everywhere. So kudos to you
Oh
on
man.
that. It's probably one of those things where you don't even think about what you're doing and what the long term effects of that business will be. But then once you get there, you're like, wow, that was really fortunate that we did it that way.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, foresight, hindsight, whatever. Ignorance is bliss, and we get to where we get, and we make we do with it what the best we can.
So where do you think the future of Gig Salad is? Because there's obviously other people I'm sure who are looking to take market share from you. There's a lot of money going to tech. You've got a great business model where you can peel that percentage off of the booking. So how do you see the future of that business going? And you sound like you also want to act. Like where's that fall into this thing?
Yeah, the business is, so a year ago, right about a year ago, I hired a person full time that it was a colleague, friend of mine, worked for another business for 12. He had been there 12 years or so, 12, 15 years. A company called Bandzoogle, which is a website template platform primarily for bands.
Okay.
And we would collaborate and partner with them on certain projects. And he left that company in 24, end of 24. And he had just accepted a new job. And as we were talking, I was like, hey, if you're ever, and I didn't even know that all of it was going on, I said, we should try to work together someday. If you ever,
It really is your love language, isn't it?
it really is my love language.
See, I had that and I learned better of it after trying it and going like, well, that didn't work, and now that relationship's either burnt or awkward. Uh,
Yeah, I definitely, wisdom. I'm, I haven't, even in spite of, you know, it wasn't it wasn't entirely relational that what happened. I think just it was a classic that as a founder, for Steve as a founder, he got to a place where he was just, whether it was burned out, ready for something new.
Yeah.
There was a number of factors. It was still a difficult separation. Had been my best friend. He was my co-founder. He was, we brought this thing up together. This was our baby.
Hmm.
Yeah, it definitely is not for the faint of heart to go in to business with a friend or family, etc.
Yeah, I
Um,
just literally last Friday completed the buyout of my business partner. So I'm the sole owner of our company, but we went dang near 12 years together. So there you
wow.
go. Yeah, that could be a whole other
Yeah,
conversation.
it could be. And those who are listening and don't know this, there is a man who right there who's going through it. No matter how it happens, it can be bittersweet. But dude, seriously, that's a thing. Um, as far as the gig salad future, it is really bright. The first thing that Locke and I did, I said to Locke, we should own our offices again. Like we owned, then we sold the building, and then we rented for years. And I thought, let's invest in some real estate. And so we bought the existing building that we were in Connecticut, in Missouri, and then we bought a place in Wilmington for that office, and then since then we've invested in two more properties. So
Nice.
we since the end of 22 went from owning nothing, just my personal home, to four properties, and I'm working on a second home. Yeah, it's kind of amazing. I became an empty nester in 20, and a couple different things have fed into this. I also stopped drinking about it's 3 years ago. And I found myself with a lot more time, a lot more energy,
That seems
a
like
lot
the
more clarity.
entertainment business just kind of lends itself to that. Like you got to go to the
Yeah,
event, you got to be out kind of late. You go, like you said, you got to schmooze. Like, oh, I got to go to this. My friend who's the agent, I got to go to this showcase and see this artist. And it's like, it's Wednesday, dude. Like I don't want to go out.
right.
Like I want to stay home and go to bed, watch a little Netflix and hit the
Yes.
hay and then wake up tomorrow and I got to do a 5 mile run.
Oh, good. You're healthy.
Yeah.
Look at you. Great. Well,
Well,
that's the stuff I found. That's the
that's
stuff I
it's
found.
tough to do that
Health.
when you're like, I have to go out and be like present at this event, and then you're at an event, it's at a
Yes,
bar. Yeah, I'll get a drink or two, and then
exactly.
you music
Exactly.
people, one drink turns to three, which turns to six, and then it turns to I'm going to get to the office tomorrow at 10.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. Some variation of that. It was just a lot of evolution has happened, and as I said, here I am at 60 years old, and I have more ambition than I've ever have. I'm doing more things. I have a couple startups I'm working on,
Nice.
including the acting. I started a podcast that
All
I
right.
do with
Hell
two
yeah.
other co. We're 24, and I think we've recorded 24, 26. Or we've posted almost 24, 26. And so that's been great. I'm starting my own personal podcast where I'm going to interview. So, Alex, I'd like to
I'm on,
give you.
man. I'm on. Shoot me the
Okay.
email. I
Okay.
got you.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm, and by the way, all this is possible because of Gig Salad. That is the lifeblood of how I'm able to do as much as I do. And back to where we're experiencing hockey stick growth. We
Mm,
hired this person. We started doing digital marketing for the first time in our life. We've It's always been organic SEO and word of mouth, and now we're doing some digital marketing,
mm.
and it's nearly hockey stick growth all of a sudden.
Wow.
And to be almost 20 years in we're 20 years in doing this. To be experiencing that is pretty amazing. And we're of course trying to navigate AI and how does that apply and how can we use that to help run the business and how can we help use that to the end user, et cetera. there's nothing but opportunity. There's nothing but excitement. It's kind of the Wild West again. Even though we've been doing it a long time. Let's put it this way: when we launched, there wasn't Airbnb, there wasn't Uber.
That's
The, you
crazy.
know, this idea of an event marketplace wasn't as commonly known as it is now. And so we're we've learned a lot from startups that are in different spaces, but still all the same. What can we do differently? What can we do better? We're always asking ourselves that.
So what you're saying is Airbnb and Uber took your idea.
Pretty much.
Yeah, yeah.
Pretty.
You should shoot them an email, see if they'll give you a couple percentage points. So
Yeah.
could you foresee yourself selling Gig Salad, or do you think this is like something that I'll have for the rest of my life? I think you said you have a son. I'm not sure about other family. Do you think they would ever be interested in taking the business over? Or do you think it's something, it sounds like you've put someone in place who can manage the business and you can focus on these other things?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a legacy sort of thing, whether it goes to the employees, whether it goes to I don't know. I don't think I want to sell. That was sort of the catalyst that got us to buying Steve out.
Mm-hmm.
At different times from about 2015 for 5 years, I was going through the beginning stages of my divorce. Steve, it was similar. So we had we were going through these personal challenges. We were at Gig Salad. The business itself was doing great, but our specific usefulness we weren't necessarily feeling. We had
Mm-hmm.
it sort of had outgrown us.
Mm-hmm.
Neither one of us had a tech background, and it really we became a tech company as opposed to a talent bookings place, which
Right.
is what I was familiar. Even Steve as the designer, it was like we felt like we were getting a little too much tunnel vision because we did everything in house for so long. And I think just more and more as the company grew and as we relied on the team more, and delegated better and et cetera, it was like, hey, when we would step away and all of a sudden realize not only did things not fall apart, but they were thriving. It's
Yeah.
like, oh, okay, maybe we're in that unique position now of that teenage years of being a founder, and maybe we can step back a little bit and reap some of the reward of all the hard work that we had done. And it's continued to be that way. So once we were able to buy out Steve and satisfy him, and I didn't have a need to sell anymore. It provides for me a very comfortable lifestyle. Um, I'm not rich, but I have a great life. It's a very simple life, and it's a life I enjoy a great deal. I get to travel. I get to do this. I'm a content creator now. That's my main focus.
Mm.
Is I'm really leaned in this past year to doing content both for Gig Salad and for my own personal brand. For what it's worth, I
Yep.
launched my own personal website, so I'm blogging and I'm telling my story that I didn't think even had much value before. But now I'm realizing, there's some u- u- unique aspects of my journey that I think could resonate with others. And if I can, I'm going to at least put it out there. And if I get some likes or some follows or some whatever, then great. If not, it definitely serves me for my own artistic expression and just again the way I process with my condition. I talk to think, and so I'm out there just rapping and riffing and doing videos and and sort of preparing myself for the acting roles. I'm on camera. I'm
Mm-hmm.
doing bits. I'm doing my shtick, and we'll see what happens.
Well, my only piece of advice when it comes to content or specifically the podcast is just keep at it. I mean, you
Thank you.
gotta make sure that you keep at it. My friend started a podcast here in town and he was getting like some great Columbus local, like, I don't know, you don't call them celebrities, right? We don't have that many celebrities, but like local celebrities. Like he got some really, famous newscasters from Columbus who've been doing it a really long time and some kind of well-known people. And I think he just was like, dang, this is a lot of work kind of got sidetracked and hasn't put out an episode in, I don't know, 8 to 9 months. So it's tough to stop. It's kind of like working out. Once you stop, it's like, ooh, the body starts to slow down and catch up. So I'd say just
Yeah.
keep at it. That's my only piece of advice when it comes to the podcast, whether it be yours or the one you're doing with the group.
Thank you. Thank you, Alex. I
Yeah.
appreciate that. How many episodes have you recorded now?
Let's find out. 130, 140,
Oh,
something like that.
oh wow. Well, kudos to you, because we chose, me and my two co-hosts chose, we don't interview people, we just rap. And we decided right early on that we were going to work with a podcast coach, and it's been very helpful. And but he talked about the various milestones of getting to the first, your first 20,
Mm-hmm.
and that shows Spotify and Apple and these places, um, that you're serious, that you're at it. And then the next one is at, 50, and and by the time, if you've gotten to 100 and beyond, then you're clearly a success. I mean, if you're still doing it, and because it's not easy
No, it's
to
work.
do a body,
It's work. People
not
think, oh, it's just talking. I go, well, that's the easy part.
no.
All the other stuff is work. 143. I just looked it up. So you might be
Wow. Yeah.
144 or five.
Producing, promoting, having guests, the
Clipping, booking the
preparation,
guest, finding the guest, all that stuff.
all of it. Yeah. I applaud you, especially again. This is I'm not to be blowing smoke here, um, and I don't know exactly who your audience is, but if they are entrepreneurs, business owners, to own one business is one thing, and it's in and of itself, it's not easy. To have a team of 50, to all that you've talked about for you, to have this side hustle, which it for some is the full time job.
Mm-hmm.
To be a podcast host it could be a full time job, and you have a family, and who else knows whatever other endeavors you have going on. um, it's a lot, and it sounds like you're doing it with some finesse and some class. So that's great. I applaud you. I'm This is the other stuff I love to talk about, is the idea of being an entrepreneur. It's being that risk tolerant and having an idea and going for it and building and growing something. Yeah, man.
It's
Good
tough.
for
It's
you.
tough business. Appreciate that. All right, Mark. Last question. Where and when are we going to see you on the big screen, man? You're getting back into the acting world. Is it going to be Godfather 4? Is that where we're going to see you in the leading man role?
I don't even know if I want to be a leading man anymore. No, I'm a character. I'm very
Okay.
much a character
Okay.
actor, and it's going to be sooner than later. If I have it my way, I plan on living to be at least 100.
Good.
It's
Good.
actually, and so I would be perfectly happy bopping around, getting a line here, a line there, and doing independent films. But I wouldn't, I couldn't do it any other way. So it is a goal to get an Oscar.
All right.
So
Hey, why do it if you're not going to shoot for the top, baby?
precisely. So
Awesome. Well, we're here for you, man. We're going to be watching. Where can everybody find you? Check out all the stuff that you're doing. Obviously, gigsalad.com.
gigsalad.com. Where we really love to direct people outside of gigsalad.com, in addition to gigsalad.com, is thinkupon.com.
Think upon.
Thinkupon.com is my website I launched on my 60th birthday on March 10th, and it's all things Mark Steiner. When this finally comes, whenever you post this, there'll be a link there that we'll have. And
this is a nice website, thethinkupon.com. This is not a little WordPress you threw together in 3 minutes, man. This is a nice site.
Wow, Alex, I so appreciate that. That is a response that everybody gives, and I have to give Revel in Springfield, Missouri, credit for it, because we collaborated on that. They heard me, they saw me, and they captured me. So thank you. That I believed you, and that sincere reply is what I get every time, and it thrills me. It really does. So thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Mark. I know you got some fun stuff to go out and do. You got bike rides. You got sights to see in the city. So we'll let you loose, man. But thank you so much for spending your Sunday morning with me.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it, man.